Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Stevie Matt, and today we'll be discussing Wonder Woman 1984, DC's latest rom-com. Welcome to It's Not That Deep. So, Wonder Woman 1984, actually, you know what? That doesn't feel right. Steve Returns 1984 was released just last week, Christmas Day 2020. Patty Jenkins returns as director, and she also co-wrote the film alongside Jeff Johns and Dave Callahan. And it stars Chris Pine, Kristen Wiig, Pedro the Pascal, with special appearances by Robin Wright, Connie Nielsen, and even Natasha Rothwell. Hey girl, I see you. Pedro plays Max Lord, a messy boot scammer who comes upon a stone that grants any wish, and he goes a little batshit crazy with it. He teams up with Barbara Minerva, played excellently by Kristen Wiig, who has also used the stone to gain special powers which include removing her glasses, taking down her ponytail, walking in heels, finding an overall better sense of fashion, and reminding herself that she is Kristen Wiig and far too funny to continue being ignored by a department full of geology and archaeology nerds. Meanwhile, you have Chris Pine returning as Steve Trevor, who has been magically brought back to life by the stone after dying in the First World War, and he's just sort of marveling at all the wonders of 1984, because, I mean, who doesn't love the 80s, right? Anyway, he's brought back by the love of his life, some lady named Diana Prince, who sometimes moonlights as a superhero named Wonder Woman. She pops up in other movies where she teams up with Aquaman and the Flash, and even goes head to head with hammerhead sharks named Steppenwolf and Superman himself. But all that isn't really important here because she's like a small character or whatever. No, but seriously, I don't know if they brought Steve back because he's like a fan favorite or something, or Chris Pine is just extremely charming and Gal Gadot cannot carry an entire film on her own, or whatever. I get it. It's just, then recast him as Diana then. I wouldn't question it. He could rock the armor. I'd be fine with it. It'd still be better than shoving his character into this movie and reducing Wonder Woman to some digmatized lapdog in her own damn movie. This movie is 2.5 damn hours long, and the first half of that is basically just Steve and Diana giving time traveler rom-com AUTs or some shit. No shade to fanfic, but child, that is not what I signed up for. I signed up for Wonder Woman. What's not clicking? Now, in her defense, at least she didn't go full Scarlet Witch and just say fuck you to half of the literal universe over some sentient vibrator. At least Steve was an actual person and not just some robot she was locked in a room with until she fell in love with him. But it was still just girl, you come from an island of women and you telling me you ceased to function over the first dude you meet and can't do shit else for 70 years? Now sis. Okay, so I obviously had some issues with the film, but I like to take a few moments to talk about what I did give credit where credit is due. This is balanced and fair. But first of all, they got rid of all that damn slow-mo that they had in the first movie, and it just bogged the whole thing down. They actually let the action scenes here breathe a little bit, so thank Dionysus for that. And the acrobatics in that opening sequence were really cool. That whole thing in Themyscira, as usual, same as the first movie, that was the best sequence of the movie. And unfortunately, after she gets back to the real world, we don't really see much of that anymore. But what we did get, the little bit that we did get, was pretty cool. So I'll give it that. And I have issues with their characters that I'll get into in a little bit. But Kristen Wiig and Pedro Pascal were both just so excellent. And Chris Pine, too. They all have excellent on-screen charisma. They're just really charming on screen. And to her credit, I will say that Gal Gadot at least learned how to read lines so that she doesn't sound like a wooden board. Her line reading felt a bit more natural here than it has in previous films, but she was up against some heavyweights, child, and they ate her all the way up, damn, in her own movie. But anyway, good things right now, good things. I really like the flying scene. I felt like that was really artistically rendered. The cinematography was really good. And it just felt like they said, you know what? We don't give a damn about physics. And I mean this genuinely. I really do. I appreciated that. I feel like this is a superhero movie. We have a guy who turned himself into a stone. We have another girl who is slowly turning into an actual cheetah. And you expect me to give a damn about gravity? I don't. And I won't. This is a superhero movie. I feel like This is a scene in a movie. You can take artistic liberties, and I feel like you should. And I feel like movies, at least here in the West, movies really need to learn to embrace that more, and film goers need to learn how to appreciate it more. Like, you know, like, the car wouldn't really explode like that. The car wouldn't really flip like that. It's like, child, we don't give a damn. It looks cool, so who cares? Go outside and play a sports ball if that's the only way you're gonna watch this damn movie. Like, ugh. I blame CinemaSins. Okay, but now let me get into my real issues with this movie. First of all, the entire first half felt like a rom-com. No shade to rom-coms, just not what I signed up for. But then you have, you know, the more interesting stories with Barbara and Max's respective arcs, yet they're handled so poorly. So let me start with Barbara. When we meet her, she's a mousy, messy caricature of a woman who is ignored and alienated in every turn and just very metaphorically small, right? Despite being a very decorated, multi-hyphenate doctor, she is easily forgotten. Men do not stop to help her when she drops a stack of papers out of her briefcase, you know, that classic scene there. She's just invisible. She can't even walk in heels. But she's nice to homeless people, right? You know, she even builds a relationship with one that she passes regularly on her way home from work. So she's a kind person. She's just, other people don't give her the time of day. Then she meets our protagonist slash supporting character, the statuesque Diana Prince, who turns heads everywhere she goes, is a regulation hottie, looks like a model but can also identify historical artifacts from across the room, and she even reads Latin. She's like totes perfect, you know what I mean? Like everyone wishes they could be like Diana. Like one time Diana started wearing army pants and flip-flops, so I started wearing army pants and flip-flops. And Barbara, an entire doctor who also stopped emotionally developing at like 16, is like totally jealous of her, you know what I mean? Like she is so weird. She meets her one time and just becomes obsessed with her. She even wishes she could be like her, literally. And like, she's clearly in lesbians with her. Did you see the way that her and Diana were eye-banging each other at that cute little dinner date? This is also where Diana tries to reassure her that her life is not as perfect as Barbara seems to think it is. Like, she was basically like, don't worry, sis, I'm just as poorly written as you are. All I've been doing for the last 70 years is thwarting petty crimes and grieving over a dead boyfriend. If we're going to heal, let it be glorious. And here's what makes me so mad about Barbara's story. They actually might have could have had something with that Mean Girls ass dynamic if they had just taken it as an opportunity to, like, I don't know, unpack desirability politics and really go into like how they work against women like Barbara in favor of women like Gal Gadot Diana. I mean, since they're both white women, it still wouldn't have really hit since desirability favors both of them over women of color and black women, but it still would have been better than what we got. I make jokes, but at least Mean Girls was about not fighting each other over dumb boys, whereas this one never even evolved past like, oh my god, she's like totes jealous of Diana, and it like literally drove her crazy. Can you believe? But it gets worse. The scene that they used to signal her turn to villainy and badness, you know, that she's losing her kindness and her humanity, is her beating the shit out of a man who literally assaulted her a couple scenes prior before she got her powers. And it was very clear where that was going to go if Diana hadn't showed up when she did. And okay, also, for real, can we talk about that for just 1 second? So you come across your new coworker and friend being attacked by a man on the street, walking home, middle of the night, completely dark, and after you save her, you send her on her merry way to go the rest of the way home alone still? You don't go with her, you don't bring her with you, you don't make sure she gets home safely, none of that? Diana, are you fucking serious? But then, when Barbara does get her powers, she beats the brakes off this motherfucker. But for some reason, it's framed as her going bad, when it's really like one of the most heroic things that happens in the movie. I will say this a lot, you'll hear me say this a lot, but Hollywood really has a problem with women defending themselves against abusers and violent men. It is really disgusting, it shows up all the time, and it's violent in its own right each and every time it happens. So you'll see me point it out whenever I catch it. So not only is her supervillain origin story reduced to like a juvenile concept of like jealousy over another pretty woman that she's probably in lesbians with, but the first thing she does to signal to you that she's going bad is beating the shit out of a man who assaulted and harassed her. And that homeless man that she has developed a rapport with shows up simply to look at her like he's the ghost of Christmas past, to really drive home that she's just becoming a terrible person. How dare she? Because that's the thing she loses in this quest to be a bad bitch, her literal humanity. Because in this world, apparently women have only one of two choices, to be pretty or to be kind. You can either be kind to homeless people, or you can learn to walk in heels. One or the other, you only get one. These are your only two choices. Except Diana, she is pretty and kind. Because since the 15-year-old boys who wrote this script want to bang her, she's allowed to be practically perfect in every way. And now, Patty girl, I know your name is on this script as well, and I'm not going to speculate what happened there. All I know is that the script that made it to screen felt like it was written by teenage boys. And then there's Max. Maxwell Lorenzano, shortened down to Max Lord, and an implied means of assimilation after being bullied and alienated in his childhood for being Mexican. Now, before I even go in on this guy, let me just say that Pedro Pascal played the hell out of this guy. The way he embodies his characters and just gives them a fresh feel every time, it's really wild. Like, compare this guy to Mando and you see he has the range. And on the surface, the whole concept of his character is actually pretty interesting. I'm not gonna lie. Like, he's a scamming ass TV personality who is pretending to be an oil baron, but he's really down on his luck because he's shitty at this. He's just a con artist. But he has this son that he is trying to impress, who is obviously a stand-in for his daddy issues, poor thing. So Max tracks down this dream stone that can grant wishes, and so his bright idea is to wish to be the dream stone. And so now he can grant wishes and take something in return. And that's his whole thing. He's a con man, so he's a fast talker, and he can basically manipulate everybody around him into making wishes for something that they want, and then he takes something in return. It's a very cool idea and has so many possibilities, and it's utilized to employ every military propaganda trope found in every 80s action movie ever. They somehow find a way to shove in both Arabs who wish for more nuclear missiles and villainously talk about their villainous desire for their land to be returned and the invaders to go away. Wow, such villain. Many bad. And shit about Russia, which has become like the hot buzzword nation right now. So you get all of that in a rom-com, led by Gal Gadot, IDF Barbie herself. Like, the racial optics in this film are just big yikes from top to bottom, inside and out. And on top of all that, it has the absolute audacity to be 2.5 hours long and boring as hell. Like, the nerve to have Wonder Woman learn how to turn a jet invisible simply by focusing her energy and touching it, and figuring out how to use her lasso to ride actual fucking lightning bolts and still somehow be boring. You have 3 generations of Spider-Man movies to pull from, and somehow you made her swinging not exciting? How? And then that silly ass ending. Super strength, super armor, all kinds of cool gear and equipment and tools and abilities, and she defeats the big bad villain with a lecture. And a silly one at that. Like, okay, the wishes come at a price, but I don't understand the point of it all or how it ties into truth. Like, okay, I see that it ties into the opening sequence where, Diana loses that race because she fucked up and then fell behind, and she uses the shortcut to get back in lead, but she misses one of her progress markers, and so she basically disqualifies herself, and she gets a lecture about, truth, and she's just not ready, and blah blah blah, and a hero cannot be born from lies, blah blah blah. It's really cute. I just don't see how it ties into the rest of the movie. And the wishes are framed similarly as untrue because I guess they're not earned or whatever. It just feels so broad that it's basically saying nothing. Wishing for something and getting it instantly really brings to mind for me conversations about scarcity and accessibility and insecurities and disadvantages that are really heavily informed by the world around you. So I feel like it's just a much more complex conversation than just making a wish is untrue. The real gag here is simply that each wish comes with a price, and that is not explicitly communicated as part of the deal. And that's what it all comes back around to, is that Max is basically exploiting those vulnerabilities in other people and, for his own personal gain. And so his desire for wealth and power, and even him chanting, "But why not more?" really gives this movie the space to go into a conversation about capitalism, because he is literally an aspiring capitalist who exploiting others for gain. But instead they say, you know what? Wouldn't it be bad if the Arabs and the Russians got a hold of this? Oh, think of the terror with them. So it's like, at every point where this movie could have had an interesting or valuable conversation about something a little deeper, they instead just went full imperialism. And in the first movie, I had a similar issue because of the way that it framed love as the opposite of war, which is such a vapid analysis. And here you have similarly these, lectures about abstractions, blah, 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 about truth and lies and this, that, and the other. And so it's like the DCEU Wonder Woman is quickly becoming the live, laugh, love of superhero franchises, just basic and vapid and no material analysis at all. And it's really unfortunate. So that's all I got for you today. As much as I really enjoy DCEU movies in general, yes, even those ones, Wonder Woman is just not giving what she's supposed to have gave, and this franchise is just continuously underwhelming me. But I ain't really tripping, because I got Harley Quinn and she is much more my energy anyway. But if Wonder Woman is your girl, the original Wonder Woman series starring Linda Carter, as well as all the animated stuff, it's all on HBO Max as well. So head on over and check that out to cleanse the palate or whatever you need. Happy Wonder Womaning. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button down below. Feel free to drop a comment, but please do keep it respectful and rational. We are critical viewers here, not stans. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss another one. Check me out on Twitter and Coffee for more ways to stay up to date and show support. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you in the next video.